Good evening, everyone. We're going to start the meeting, and would you please join us in the pledge? Good evening, everyone. Our first item is going to be number 4 is correspondence. We don't have anything tonight. Next is number 5 is public comment session for items that are on tonight's agenda. We have no one signed up. Item number 6 is presentations and guests, and we have 2 tonight. And presentation A is from the tech department from the Director of Technology, Mr. Aaron Butler.
Good evening, everyone. I'm here to talk with you tonight about our server room power protection, or as it's known within IT, the UPS. So, since I immediately started with throwing out an acronym, let me fill you in on exactly what a UPS is. UPS stands for an uninterruptible power supply. And UPSs really provide two benefits. The first is they are a short-term battery backup, which in the case of our systems here provides a very valuable function in that if we have a power outage, especially during the school day, that allows us to keep things like our surveillance camera system, internet access, staff and student login, and the wireless network up and running while the power is out. If it's a short outage, we're back up and there's no interruption to the day. If it tends something to be longer and we're going to be closing school, that allows us to keep those systems running until we can get the students on the buses and headed home. Also, along with that is internet access. Our phones also rely on that. So in the case of us shutting down school, the ability for parents to call in, arrange for alternate pickups, things like that, rely on us keeping these systems up. The second thing that UPSs provide is protection against power dips or grayouts and spikes. And those two things are really even more deadly to electronics than an actual outage. When you see where the lights get dim for a little bit and come back up, that kills computers like nothing else. The UPS provides that steady state of power. A couple of quick statistics. New York has on average 20 to 40 lightning storms per year. Back in 1951, I went back a few years and we were averaging 28 per year back then. We are up to 40 per year in the past 3 years. So it does seem to be trending upward, and we are headed towards spring. Here at the school, we have a number of different locations that we have UPSs. So if you think of a computer network, if you think of an old wagon wheel, that hub and spoke, the hub is the server room. That's where the internet comes in. That's where all of our servers sit. That's where all of our data sits. And then the spokes go out to the areas throughout our building. And we have closets throughout the building that feed individual classrooms and offices and everything like that. Our hub closets, we replaced the UPSs in those a couple of years ago, so those are all relatively new. But that UPS in the server room is incredibly important because of what a central role that plays. If that goes down, all of those rest of those UPSs won't help anything. Real quickly, how does a UPS work? So basically, it sits between the line power coming in and all of our computers and storage and everything like that. So that's how it was able to protect that. It has multiple batteries within the system with failover and additional batteries that provide additional runtime that allow us to keep the system up in case of a power outage that's more than a few minutes. The failover batteries you can think of kind of like subs on the bench in a sports team. You know, you've got your batteries that are operating, they're out on the floor playing the game. One of them gets injured, you can send in a sub without having to stop the game. So that leads into our history. So our existing server room UPS was purchased back in 2017 for a little over $34,000. Industry opinions, if you do research out there, you'll see a number of different figures talked about how long a lifespan of a UPS really is. Some common figures, 5 to 8 years, up to 10 years, 10,000 hours. In my opinion, that's very low. I've never seen a UPS that I had to replace in 10,000 hours, or I would never buy that brand again. Battery lifetime is generally estimated to be about 3 years, and then you're replacing the batteries in that UPS. My personal experience in the past 28 years working in IT is it's best to replace a UPS after about 6 years. You wait longer than that and you start to have increasing issues and failures and that type of thing. We're currently at 7 years right now with our server room UPS, which makes this next slide not really surprising. At the beginning of this school year, the system alerted us to a number of failed batteries. What does that mean? We've basically lost our spare battery capacity at this point, so we don't have any more subs on the bench. Another drive goes down, we're playing with 4 men on the court, okay? Not a good thing, because even if, in the case of an outage, it still protects our systems, it's not going to keep them up for very long. The other problem there is all of those batteries are the same age. So when some of them start to fail, you know that the other ones aren't far behind. So, and with spring on its way and increased thunderstorms, we knew we had to start looking immediately. So the first thing we looked at is that UPS is 7 years old. You can lots of times get 10 years, possibly a little more out of them. So I looked to see whether we could renew the warranty on that unit and just replace the batteries that were failing and keep that going for another 3 years. When we contacted APC, the manufacturer of that UPS, they told us that in order to extend that another 3 years, they would first have to send somebody in and do a pre-contract audit to check out the health of the system, make sure that they were willing to extend it. And they were going to charge us $1,200 to do that. If it failed, we just tossed that $1,200 out the window. If it passed, we still had to buy all of the pieces for inside of the system. All of those pieces, the 32 battery modules and the 3 power modules that we would have had to replace if we went that route, would have added up to $34,095, which, if you look back here, is only slightly less than we spent for the entire system in the first place. And then after all of that money spent, we'd still be left with a 7-year-old UPS with mostly new components, but still some residual risk because it wouldn't be completely new. Complicating that matter further, the UPS manufacturer, APC, or their owner, Schneider Electric, recently suffered a major cyber attack. There are known vulnerabilities in their product. The product that we're running here doesn't have a known vulnerability in it, but the keyword there is known. Just because Schneider Electric doesn't know about it yet doesn't mean that the bad guys don't. So I started looking at our other options. There are really 2 major UPS companies out there. Eaton is the other one that I've worked with in the past and have had very, very good experiences with. I reached out to them and got a quote, a brand new UPS with Eaton's advanced battery management. One of the things I like about Eaton is the technology they have in them. The batteries will actually last about 50% longer than the same battery would last in a competitor's UPS. So instead of getting about 3 years out of the batteries, you're getting about 4.5. And in my personal experience, they are the best UPS out there. And for that brand new UPS, with the runtime we need, $32,544. So brand new UPS for about $1,500 less than it would cost us to go with a duct tape solution for our existing unit. The only additional expenses there is we will need an electrician to wire it in. It's not a major task though, so. And that is all I had for you. We did just want to share this with you because it is a significant expenditure. We didn't want it to come as a surprise that this was happening. We wanted you to know what it was and why we were doing it. Any questions?
Just, do you know what the cost would be to get rid of the batteries that we currently have if we get new units? Or is it something that, is that price, hey, we'll sell you this, we'll take the old batteries, we'll replace with this?
I do not. I'm not sure what the recycling fee
Just
would be.
curious. I mean, if
Yeah.
batteries today are not cheap to get rid of. So.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you.
Anything else?
Thank you, Aaron.
Thank you.
Okay, our next item is item 6B is the budget presentation 2024 to 2025 program component by Assistant Superintendent for Finance and Human Resources, Mr. Robert Winiger.
Okay, happy Ides of March Eve here on March 14th. Tonight, we're going to go through the program component, which is the largest component of any budget for a school district. It's where all the educational costs take place. It includes the salaries and benefits for all the classroom teaching personnel. That's just not teachers, that's aides, all the supplies and materials and services that we use for that instruction, education for off-campus students, interscholastic and extracurricular programs, the transportation of all the students for the year, and of course, the infamous employee benefits. So the proposed program component is $28,735,459, which represents less than 1% increase, $260,000 over this year's current budget. If we look at the breakdown areas, the ones 25% seems like a lot, but it's an inconsequential amount of money, so that's why it highlights that so much. We're going to get into some conversations about the negatives and the positives there, but there's some explanations that really need to be made so it makes a little more sense. The first thing I want to show you is enrollment trends in this district. So if we go back to 2017-18, and I did skip a gap there just to not make this overly long, but you can see in that year we had 1,008 students. We go back to my first year here, 15-16, we were just under 1,200 students back then. So all this is really showing you is their enrollment trends have been going down. If we look at the two schools, the elementary school, and they were going down basically the same. This year we see a slight uptick in elementary school students. Is that an anomaly or not? We're not sure. But looking at the secondary school, we have a steady decline there. And that's important for a variety of reasons. We have to look at how we allocate our resources. What's the best way to do that? So for this current school year, the grand total of salaries in the program component are $11,668,000, which is about $96,000 less than last year, but we're going to show you why in a second. However, of all that money, we prototypically, between our IDEA, which is our 611 and 619 grants, and all our title grants, and our UPK and pre-K grants, usually allocate about $1,055,000 of salary. So the general fund is going to show $10,613,000 in salaries, but overall total. The IDEA and title grants and UPK grants, they're not guaranteed in stone, but they've been very consistent over the years. These are typical grants that have been running in New York State public schools and nationwide for years. And there doesn't seem to be any reason to think that they're in jeopardy. So minuses and pluses in the school year. Minuses, a math teacher, a special education teacher, a psychologist, and a business teacher, but all of those minuses are through attrition. The one thing here in this district, we always look to see when retirements happen, do we need to replace? And, our goal here is never having to lay somebody off. Attrition is the natural balance of how we get to where we want to get to. But we look at a plus. Basically, one of the things a psychologist is retiring, but we're looking to hire a school counselor. CODA, which is a certified occupational therapy assistant, is currently working here, but under this first year, That person's salary has been paid with ESSER funds and ARP funds. So now it's time for the general fund to pick up that cost. That position was just because the physical therapist that we had, occupational therapist, excuse me, became overloaded. What the students need should drive budgets and positions, and this district has done a very good job with that. Again, an ENL teacher, mid-year we had another one come in. Our ENL population is growing. And school district public information officer. What that position is, it's a new position, but currently we're contracting with Cap Region BOCES for services that we pay a lot of money for. The great thing, of course, during this is there's aid on it, but we only have 2 days of service a week. And one of the things is we're trying to get more things accomplished. Communication is the answer. So by taking that person on, there's a little bit of an increase, but not much, because you're taking out the money you charge from Cap Region BOCES. I just listen to what everybody tells me. My administrative team, they work really hard. The goal of this program component is offering classes and electives aimed at maximizing student participation, and they've had a complete paradigm shift in their master scheduling, how they're going about scheduling classes and having proactive discussions with students and staff on how can we maintain our current programming, change the way we schedule a little bit, and work through the electives, because that is the goal here, is to make sure that we don't drop electives or courses that students want, and we provide a well-rounded education. We're looking to address all student needs with both assistance and enhancement in our program. Special education costs went down. So we have students that come in and out of the district, move, age out. Special education, I've told you all along, all the costs go up, but one of the things I have to budget for, special education students have rights to be granted services in ages 18 to 21. So as a student is graduating, whether they be from on-campus or from an off-campus program, and not knowing this time of year, will they need those services beyond, we've had to take a look at that, and I have to budget for some of that. So a couple of times, so there's two students that don't need those services, so we can remove that from the budget. Additionally, over the past 2 years, this year and last year, through attrition, monitoring things after the budget's developed, we have lowered staffing levels by 2 positions. In the other services, you'll see that we're down quite a bit there. The other services, we're down 7 or 8%. Most of this reduction is dealing with Mr. Butler there. Aaron and I have worked in that presentation you just saw. As you can see, we're trying to stay on top of so many different things, cybersecurity, making sure we're working, making sure our students have what they need. But the one thing with the ESSER funds and the ARP funds and working with Aaron, most of his purchases, a lot of what we look at are big dollars, but they're also currently one-time purchases. So this UPS that he's talking about right now, we're going to get on that quickly, is something that will be paid out of federal funding for this project. So that's what we work really hard on. And that's where a lot of the reduction came, because a lot of what's going on is in his technology budget. I'm trying to do this year. These funds run out of September 30th of 24. It's, in my opinion, it's a good way to utilize the funds. And you know you're going to use them. And we have a few others we're talking about right now. Athletics and extracurricular are up about 14%. A couple years ago, when Dr. Silva was here, we did some adjustments to the coaching salaries. They're reflecting more here on the current budget. And working with Mr. Crudelli, we really looked at equipment, supplies, and material upgrades, a uniform 5-year plan. I asked them to be aggressive because we challenged the entire athletic, not just the athletics, but PE department over the summer and next summer. Go through your stuff. You know, it's difficult. So we're trying to bring things up a little bit in what we have while maintaining them and managing a little better. When I say outdoor facilities, pole vault pits, certain things that we had to upgrade over the course of years. He's working on a couple items there. So there is an increase in athletics and extracurricular. Extracurricular it's not just athletics, the play, the different plays that we put on this year. We challenged them also, clean out and let's start. So, to have set materials, to have costumes and things. So there's been an increase there. Transportation. I've had the luxury of having some consulting fees to help me when we get to runs, to help me look at things and really make sure that we're maximizing our runs over the years. In the past 6 years, we've eliminated 4 bus runs. 4 years ago, 72,000, 78,000. A bus run now can be $90,000 a year. But we feel that we pretty much, with the reduction in our enrollment, we're as tight as we can get. Reassessing actual costs for field trips. So not everything is a rolling V bill when it comes to field trips. My field trips budget, and looking at this, I was able to reduce the bus part of field trips a little bit because we're doing them a little bit differently. And that's a trend analysis. And last but not least, we have more residential placements off campus than we did before. What that means is they live there, they stay there. We do not have to transport those students on a daily basis. We're down 1.5 runs right now this year, which is about $135,000, because the cost of transportation isn't going down. But once again, we're trying to maximize. Of course, employee benefits, increases in health insurance. We seem to have a little more family coverage. I have to assume that every new employee is going to take family coverage. We don't know who some of them are, but that's the assumption that we make when we're creating a budget. Before I move on, is there any comments or questions on any of what we just went over?
I had a question regarding the staffing. You mentioned the math teacher. I know that Mrs. Keikos, she has, from my recollection, she's covered most of our college level math. Are we going to be able to continue offering those? In the past, staff has retired who were handling those classes, and it didn't get picked up maybe as quickly as we would have liked. And a year went by where we didn't offer a certain class. Now that we're in March, looking ahead, do you think we have staff who can get in line to do that?
So Beth Rice came forward and was interested in teaching, and we just got her approved through Sutherland County Community College, so she will be stepping in to maintain those classes.
Then the other question would be around the business position. I know Mrs. Peters taught a lot of different classes, giving kids a good look at business classes, business math being one of them. Do we have somebody on staff who can handle those?
We're going to take a look at restructuring some of the business classes we're offering. Some of the prerequisite classes are no longer required because the kids are getting those computer skills in earlier grades. And I'll be completely honest, we have yet to have an applicant for the business position, so that too is a challenge for us.
Thank you.
Any other questions? So we have now gone through the 3 components: the administrative, the capital, and the program components of the budget. As we stand here today, with the presentations prior, the proposed budget stands at $37,291,000, which represents a 2.18% over this current year's budget. We have to pay for it. And the revenue streams that we can look at, we have to take of what we know right now and match dollar for dollar. Couple areas I want to focus on before we talk about taxes. In the other area, you're up about $50,000. The other areas, most of that is derived from the additional interest that we're earning based upon interest rates going up and taking advantage of those. State aid currently, this was the governor's information back in late January, of an increase of 2%, $12,781,000. I think at that time we talked about all over the place state aid. Some schools had some huge increases, while other local schools had some significant decreases. And I was very happy at that time that we were relatively flat with an extra couple $100,000 because it's easy when everything stays level, you can plan a little better. Of course, we all know the state's supposed to have a budget by April 1st, but April 1st is a Monday, which follows Easter Sunday, which is right behind Good Friday. Will they or won't they? A lot of speculation. I think Aaron's going to chime in here in a second. For my professional organization, they're thinking that the schools that lost aid, they're pushing very hard to get that aid put back in for them. For a school like us, I don't anticipate a major change up or down or anything, but I'll let Aaron.
Well, what I did put for everyone to see tonight is just what we got at the last hour this evening from NISBA. And one is all the recommendations that the Senate is proposing, and then one that the Assembly is proposing. And then the top sheet represents the comprehensive summaries of both of the budgets. And so it's a pretty hot topic right now. The Senate certainly offers opportunities that I think every school district would jump on, and the Assembly seems to too. But we'll have to kind of sit back and watch as they hash that out over the next couple of weeks.
So I think ultimately the state aid number that came in January is the number we're looking at there. Want to talk about applied fund balance. There's a increase in there a little bit, but applied fund balance. Let's take this back to COVID years. School districts are allowed to maintain 4% of their current year's budget as a carry that money there. But then you have applied fund balance. You can apply money from this year's budget to next year's. At the end of 2019-20, when we were in the midst of COVID and nobody knew what was going to transpire, with the superintendent of schools at the time and the Board of Education's knowledge, we let our fund balance crop up to 20%. Just because we had no idea revenue was coming in, at least if we had cash on hand, we could try our best to maintain our program. Nobody was going to get yelled at about that, but the next year, we don't go from 20% down to where we want to immediately. So between the board, our auditor, and the superintendent at the time, we've been slowly stepping down. We went from 20 to 12 to 9. We were just about 5.9 this year. The goal is to get back to 4%. How do we do that? This little increase there will be a very big help in getting us back to the 4%. So we're going to allocate a little more money from our applied fund balance for next year. The applied reserve balance. I think I've spoke about this a couple of times. Our reserve monies. Capital reserve has to go for capital projects. Unemployment reserve has to go for unemployment costs. But we do have insurance reserve, workers' comp reserve, and one other reserve that we can use towards our general fund without having voter approval, just the Board of Education to let them know. So I'm proposing $406,000 potentially as a revenue stream to balance our budget. In all likelihood, I would take that out of our workers' comp reserve because we have a workers' comp reserve on the books here, but also as part of our workers' comp consortium, we have more reserve there, and we're in good shape. So if we had to, I would propose doing that. We're back to that $37,291,000. So we look at the tax levy, our greatest source of income. Our tax cap is well over 3%. Well over 3%. Last year was higher than that. We went at 1.49. The proposal right now before us today is to again raise taxes by 1.49%. If you adopted a budget that said that, that does not mean that's the dollar value that it's going to go up. It does mean I would never do anything, never to go above that. We're not talking about hitting our tax cap. We're just talking about a revenue stream number. Taxes are not levied until August. which is a good thing, because if you propose 1.49 and everything falls into place, you can drop that number. The tax levy is finally determined usually by late July, early August for the tax bills in July. So that's, I just want to make sure we understand that that number, it's not a guess. It's a proposed number to balance the $37,291,000 budget. Looking at other things. If state aid went up by $800,000, I would knock that tax levy down by $800,000, that proposal, because that's where, that's my taxpayers, not mine. Our taxpayers have been so good to us and are always good to us. We want to minimize that number. So where we stand right now, again, we have a proposed budget of $37,291,000. Where do we go from here? Our next board meeting is March 28th. Tentatively, our next board meeting is April 16th, but there is one on the calendar, maybe one on April 9th. The board has to adopt the budget. For me personally, adopting the budget helps with our communication because we have to get budget newsletters and everything out, and everything's quick. I don't ever want to force people to try to do things earlier just because it's convenient for me. But I'm going to tell you times when it's convenient for me. So I think the question becomes, and the answer doesn't have to come tonight, but in 2 weeks' time, what information might change on my end that I could say something different here? What information would change for all of you to make this decision on adopting a budget? The adopted budget is the one that will go into print, will be sent out to taxpayers, will be part of the budget presentation. So whatever dollar value you adopt is the one that will be voted on. So the change, there's no changing after we adopt it for the vote purposes. So again, that's a conversation amongst the board. We have 2 weeks, which they go quick. We all know how quick they go, but that's where we stand moving forward. Any comments and/or questions?
I have a question. In regards to some other districts, like Sullivan lost 2 million, Roscoe maybe, or Manor, some. What kept us out of that
So
loss?
Aaron will tell you, we could both tell you the things we've heard from our organizations. A lot of it had to do with free and reduced lunch, where you were, whether you were on it or not on it. A lot of it had to do with your wealth ratio. If you've seen major changes in your wealth ratio. And the other part of it had to do with where you were in aid. How much money did you get in ARPs and fundings like that? Some school districts usually, that federal funding was a size-based thing. The larger the district, the more you got. The more that you were, for lack of a better term, in need, the more you got. I don't mean to sound negative when I say this. Some local big schools around here, between ARP funding and the ESSER funding, and plus the increase in state aid, I'll bring 3 other business officials in here and tell you, we don't know what to do with all the money they gave us, because it was substantial. I mean, they're doing creative things with it, great things. I'm not saying that way, but again, one of the things in New York State, equity is never really truly attained. But for Tri-Valley, that levelness, to me, is a very good thing because we can maintain. We don't have the spikes. And those spikes are scary because you don't want to have one of these going down.
So you see Tri-Valley pretty stable for the next number of years then?
Never want to have a crystal ball. We've been stable. We survived COVID in a very level fashion. The only thing when I bring that enrollment number, they don't give out state aid based on the number of students, like you get so much per head. But as your enrollment declines, certain other expenses decline. When those expenses decline, depending on how you look, when you're reporting at the end of the year, that does determine some state aid. So, that's the one variable that is guaranteed. Our enrollment has gone down.
Thank you.
And George, if I may, one of the things I learned at a meeting I was recently at was that the state was looking at districts that were carrying a fund balance of over 8%. So we're restricted to 4%. And so, again, as Bob was saying, during COVID, districts sort of hid money because there was so much unknown. But if you were a district over 8% with a fund balance, they looked at you first. So over 50% of the schools in this state took a hit. And we were very lucky because we were at 5.9%.
Well, that fund balance comes in handy quite often.
I give up. Moving along to item number 7 is the superintendent's report from Ms. Long.
Good evening, everyone. I wanted to start by saying a congratulations to our music department again. In the last couple of weeks, we have hosted 2 outstanding events. Our performers were exceptional. And it was also very clear from our showcases how much planning and organization and rehearsals had to take place to make our kids so successful. And I also want to extend a thank you to Mike Koszewski, our security supervisor, our custodial teams, and our security teams. And if you were able to attend either or both of the events, you saw how smoothly the parking was, how friendly and welcoming our folks were, and how well organized all of the logistics were. And it was a real proud point. You may have noticed that we have some changes to our website. We were a little bit surprised that BOCES had started those, but our communication person is with us 2 days a week, and we've been working on experimenting with different colors. We've added some icons to the website, so it's an easy, you can click on a menu, you can click on athletics and go right to that page. And while we have some cleaning up still to do, you will notice over the next few months we'll be playing with those. And then we hope to have it completed by June, early June, to share with our community. A section has been added to our department tab and our secondary school tab around scholarship information for seniors. And this information is available for everyone to view. It will also go under our What's Happening tab. This is spotlighting all the scholarships that are out for our seniors, when they're due, what they're about, and what the criteria is to meet them. We've also added that to the Townsmen so everybody can take a look at that. And just a quick PSA for all of our seniors who I'm sure are watching the board meeting tonight. The community has really offered some very, very generous scholarships for all of you, and it is a proud point for us. And so please get on those websites, look at those links, and apply for those scholarships. Information went out last night. We have 3 unused snow days that we'll be giving back. They will be Monday, April 8th, Monday, May 13th, and Tuesday, May 28th. We tried to avoid our state testing time in between there. And if we do have to use an emergency day before May 13th, we will take that one away. Thank you.
Thank you, Aaron. Okay, moving to item number 8 is the items the board would like pulled from tonight's agenda. Anybody? Okay, moving to item 9 is the consent agenda. And I have a motion to accept or approve the entire consent agenda.
Motion.
Motion by Rose,
Second.
second by Travis. Please proceed to vote. It is unanimous. Thank you. Be it resolved upon the recommendation from the superintendent of schools, the board approves the entire consent agenda categories 9 through 14. Moving to item number 15 is board committee reports. Anything? Moving to item 16 is old business. We don't have anything tonight. Moving to item number 17 is public comment session for items that are not on tonight's agenda. We have no one signed up. Moving to item number 18 is announcements, reminders, and upcoming events. I'm not aware of anything. Anybody? Moving to item number 19 is new business. We have a number of items tonight, so we're going to start with 19A is the appointment of a cleaner. Is an action. Can I have a motion to appoint a cleaner?
Motion.
Motion by
Second.
Rose, second by Tammy. Any discussion? Please proceed to vote.
Aye.
Unanimous.
That is unanimous. Thank you. Be it resolved, upon the recommendation from the superintendent of schools, the board approves the probationary appointment of Miguel Shermati to the position of cleaner as per Sullivan County Civil Service rules and regulations, effective to be determined pending fingerprint clearance for a probationary period of 26 weeks. Salary for the 2023-2024 school year will be step 3 on the Tessa cleaner schedule, $17.52 per hour, 7.5 hours per day, 260 days per year, prorated. Salary for the 2024-2025 school year will be at step 3, $17.87 per hour. Moving to item number 19B is an appointment of a cleaner. And I have a motion to accept the appointment of the cleaner.
So moved.
Second.
Motion by George, second by Rose. Any discussion? Please proceed to vote.
Aye.
Unanimous.
As unanimous, thank you. Be it resolved upon the recommendation from the superintendent of schools, the board approves the probationary appointment of Joseph Commando to the position of cleaner as per Sullivan County Civil Service rules and regulations, effective to be determined pending fingerprint clearance for a probationary period of 26 weeks. Salary for the 2023-2024 school year will be step 3 on the Tessa cleaner schedule at $17.52 per hour, 7.5 hours per day, 260 days per year, prorated. Salary for the 2024 to 2025 school year will be at step 3, $17.87 per hour. Moving to item number 19C is the appointment of a school monitor. Can I have a motion to accept the appointment of a school monitor?
Motion.
Motion by Rose, second by Pat. Any discussion? Please proceed to vote.
Aye. Aye.
Unanimous.
As unanimous, thank you. Be it resolved, on the recommendation from the superintendent of schools, the board approves the probationary appointment of Jenny Villandi to the position of school monitor as per Sullivan County Civil Service rules and regulations, effective April 8th, 2024, subject to change for a probationary period of 26 weeks, pending fingerprint clearance. Salary for the 2023-2024 school year will be at step 2 on the Tessa monitor schedule, $18.54 per hour, 6.75 hours per day, 180 days per year, prorated. Salary for the 2024-2025 school year will be at step 2 at $18.91 per hour. Moving to item number 19D is the appointment of a student observer. And I have a motion to accept the appointment of a student observer.
Motion.
Motion by Rose. Do I have a second? Second by Pat. Any discussion?
I have a question. How many hours does she need to complete?
So it will depend on what level in the program they're at. So if they're a freshman or sophomore, it's much more reduced, possibly 30 hours, but as they get further into the program, it could be 45 hours, and it depends on the content that they're into. But I'll get that number for you.
Yeah, I'm just curious about this individual.
On a student, is it the same type of application requirements?
So really, all we need from that student is a recommendation from the college and then fingerprint clearance.
No, I don't have a concern, I'm just asking
Yeah.
the process.
Yeah, I had contacted our auditor about that because I wanted to make sure that we got the information we needed. And really, the only thing we need is photo ID and, you know, their credentials they've already earned from the college.
Thank you.
Mhm.
Anybody else? Okay, please proceed to vote.
Aye.
Unanimous.
It is unanimous. Thank you. Be it resolved upon the recommendation from the superintendent of schools, the board appoints Haley Hogenkamp as a student observer in the elementary school to fulfill field work requirements for college. Moving to item number 19E is an appointment of a student observer. Can I have a motion to accept the appointment of the student observer?
Motion.
Motion by Tim,
Second.
second by Tammy. Any discussion? Please proceed to vote.
Aye.
Unanimous.
That is unanimous. Thank you. Be it resolved upon the recommendation from the superintendent of schools, the board appoints Gina Welch as a student observer to complete 15 classroom observation hours in an ENL classroom to fulfill field work requirements for college. Moving to item number 19F is the appointment of the elementary school substitute teacher slash teaching assistant slash teacher aide for 2023 to 2024. I have a motion to accept that appointment.
Motion.
Motion by Tammy,
Second.
second by Rose. Any discussion? Please proceed to vote.
Aye.
Unanimous.
That is unanimous. Thank you. Be it resolved upon the recommendation from the superintendent of schools, the board appoints Alexandra Barnes to the position of elementary school substitute teacher, teaching assistant, teacher aide for 2023 to 2024. Tonight, we are going to have an add-on resolution. It's going to be known as 19G. Can I have a motion for the resolution regarding employee number 00105 regarding leave of absence and hearing? Motion by Rose,
Second.
second by Travis. Please proceed to vote. Yes, it's going to be a hand raise, I'm sorry. Is unanimous? Okay, who was that? Who was the, okay, Rose. So, at a meeting of the Board of Education of the Tri-Valley Central School District on March 14th, 2024, on a motion by Rose Woods and Travis Hartman, seconded by Travis Hartman, the Board of Education unanimously adopted the following resolution. Whereas pursuant to New York Civil Service Law 72, by a notice dated February 23rd, 2024, Board of Education placed employee 00105 on an immediate involuntary leave of absence and proposed to continue that voluntary leave of absence for up to 1 year. And whereas by a letter dated February 27th, 2024, employee 00105 demanded a hearing to review that decision and the basis for that decision. Now therefore it is resolved that J.M. Siegel Esquire is appointed as hearing officer to make a report and recommendations to the Board of Education as to whether employee 00105 is mentally unfit to perform their duties of their position and should remain on involuntary leave for absence for up to 1 year. And it is further resolved that the hearing in this matter should be held remotely to commence on March 18th, 2024 at 10 a.m. or as soon thereafter as counsel may be heard. And it is further resolved that a copy of this resolution and notice of hearing shall be served upon employee 00105 by the clerk of the board or her designee. Thank you. Moving to item number 20 is board comment session. Brent, anything? Travis?
I have nothing, no.
George?
I'd like to follow up with what Mr. Butler had to say in reference to Service here Electrical. I've mentioned before about a generator for the district. The school doesn't have one. And I think it's a serious conversation we need to have for this district, especially since we're out in the area that we are. And at any time we could go down, and we have a lot of computers here. We need to protect them, and we need to protect our kids. So I'd like to have that conversation sooner than later, not pushing it down the road. I think it's good for the district to have something like that.
I have nothing this evening.
I believe next week is competition night, right, Mrs. Eberly? Friday. I would encourage all students to get out, partake in all the competition night, competition week entails. I know my kids have loved it over the years. My daughter is bummed she's not going to be able to partake this year, but there's a lot going on, and we raise food donations for the local community. A lot of good comes out of it. So just come out, support your class, and have fun.
Pat, Tim?
I just want to say I support the generator concept as well that George brought up. We need a generator here. The concert was fantastic to kind of bounce off what Aaron said. Security did a great job. The parking was simple. Staff is pleasant. And, you know, I can't help but notice, and it's been brought to my attention by a few parents in my own household, that our music department and the chorus and the band, as the kids get older, is shrinking greatly. We had roughly 20 people in the high school chorus, 9 through 12. When we had the whole chorus up there, we had about 180, right? And now you think, obviously some kids fall off, some kids lose interest, they tried it, they don't like it. But we I think, could do a better job of setting them up for success. A couple elementary school parents called me this week, and their child is choosing between gym class and music lessons. None of them want to do anything but gym class, right? And then they're bringing that to us saying, hey, why can't it be at a separate time so my kid can do both? And then you move into high school, and a number of really successful kids are choosing between chemistry and choral lessons or chemistry and band lessons. It's just not set up for success. And I'd love to see if we could dive into some scheduling. I am not a scheduling guru. I don't know if it's possible, but I can tell you that it's on the community's minds, and it's been brought to me by a number of different people from a variety of grades.
Thank you, Tim. I think everyone will be pleasantly surprised at the work that we're doing with the schedules in both buildings to offer kids opportunities for electives and not making them have to choose when it comes to some of the stuff they really enjoy. So stay tuned.
If I may add to that, we went through that years ago, and what we heard from the administration is about choices. I would hope we'd look at those choices a little bit better for these kids to have that opportunity. Thank you.
Okay, moving to item number 20. Can I have a motion to adjourn?
Motion.
Motion by Tim, second by Rose. Please proceed to vote.
Aye.
Unanimous.
It's 8:01. Unanimous. Thank you. Have a good night.